Ooh, Clarity and Dehaze is inside Photoshop. Let's hike these bad boys up and get some. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, let's not do that with our Clarity and Dehaze sliders. Let's actually look at the best practices of how to use these adjustments. Hello, Blake Rudis here with F64 Academy and F64 Elite, and today we're going to be talking about Clarity and Dehaze. One of the things that I love about Adobe and what they've done recently is the desire to innovate with inside of Photoshop outside of the AI space. What I mean by that is we are very used to many of the things inside of Photoshop being pulled from Photoshop and put into the raw processors of Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom. But very rarely do we see things go from Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom and be ported into Photoshop. What they've done with the 27.3 update is put Clarity and Dehaze as an adjustment layer inside of Photoshop. And I believe that this is where it should have lived all along. After doing my experiments, I think that it's great that we have it at the raw level, but it's even better when it's inside of Photoshop because we have a lot more capability with what we can do with that at a faster and more efficient rate. First off, let's take a look at this image, which if you didn't watch the video on the film grain, which was another tool that they added in 27.3, you can go to the video in the description below and you can learn about how to make very realistic and beautiful film grain on your images. I want to take this image though a little bit further by adding Clarity and Dehaze and discuss essentially what they're going to do for your images. And then we'll talk about this landscape image and what I normally see it being used for and why you shouldn't use it that way. So I'm going to put a Clarity and Dehaze adjustment on here just to explore what these do. Clarity is essentially going to be a micro contrast adjustment that when we pull it up, it's accessing the data that is in the micro contrast areas and it's heightening the contrast or the ratio between areas of light and dark, which gives us a more like a grunge kind of HDR feel. This is great if we're going to use this on something like a textured door or something that really needs that rough kind of feel to it. But on this image, that clarity is not working for me. Dehaze is a way where you can cut through that haze on a less micro contrast level and more on a more global scale, meaning bigger chunks of the data that is in the image. As you'll recognize here, when we pull Dehaze up, it is not working on the micro contrast of the image. It's working on the ratio of light to dark in bigger chunks of contrast, whereas Clarity works on the smaller micro details. That's a pretty cool silhouette there with this low-key image that we've got here. Maybe that would be a good way to make a low-key image out of something that should be a high-key image. But what I'm going to do with this is actually go in the opposite direction. If you increase it, that is going to hike up the amount of contrast that is in those micro contrast areas. Like I said, this could be great for adding texture work maybe to the walls, but I don't necessarily like it for this image. Dehaze, more globally, bigger chunks of data. But if I move them to the left, we get more of this light, airy, and delicate feel to the image, which this creates a much more high-key look for this image. This is an artificially intelligence-generated image. It is not a photograph, so I'm not going to call it one. And Dehaze, if we drop this down, it's going to reduce the amount of contrast in those big chunks of data. So Clarity, small details. Dehaze, big chunks. What can we do with that? Well, in an image like this, we can make a really fantastic looking high-key image. What I would recommend here, though, is maybe combine this with other things you have in Photoshop to make things simpler for you. And yes, I know that there's a lot of things inside of Adobe Camera Raw and Lightroom that could do this as well, but I feel like masking work in Photoshop is exponentially faster, more efficient, and even looks better. So what I'm going to do is go to Select and go to Subject, and I'm just going to make sure that that doesn't affect our subject. Okay, so once I make this selection for the subject, just do a pretty good job here. It's selecting all the subjects that it thinks are in the image. So I'm going to take my lasso tool, Alt or Option, and subtract these areas from here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is on this Clarity and Dehaze, I'm going to press Command or Control I so I can invert what is inside that mask so that it doesn't affect our subject. So essentially, that Clarity and Dehaze is only working on the area around our subject, and our subject is going to pop forward from this Clarity and Dehaze, which is a fantastic way to use it. Now we'll take a look at it on this image here. One thing I see quite often in my critique sessions are images that look like this. And I think that that is just a hideous way to use Clarity and Dehaze. I can, however, relate to the individuals that use Clarity and Dehaze in this way. So what's happening here is perceptually, the global contrast is overwhelming the spatial contrast. So dehaze and clarity, they boost that local edge contrast everywhere, regardless of the depth in the image, from foreground to background or clouds or, grass and trees. The result is the foreground, midground, and background, they pretty much all fight for your attention at the exact same intensity. And that's where that bad feeling comes from. If you don't know what that bad feeling is, I'm going to further dig into this. In a real atmospheric perspective, distant objects have a lower contrast, they have a lower saturation, and they're softer. That's actually how our brains read distance, so we can actually mimic that beautifully with clarity and dehaze now. But when dehaze is pushed really hard, it strips away all that atmospheric look. The clouds in the far distance end up with nearly the exact same contrast and edge definition as the foreground. And visually, everything kind of collapses on the viewer, and it all feels like it's on the same plane, when we know that those clouds are much further away than the foreground. So there's also a tonal compression problem that's happening here, where the midtones get aggressively carved up with these light and dark edges, which reduces any smooth transitions from one area to the next. So instead of volume, we get this almost crunchy kind of feel. It kind of looks almost embossed, right? The viewer's eye now has no place to rest. So the image then feels tense and almost fatiguing to the mind. It destroys all those atmospheric cues, and it kind of trades dimension for texture. And in this case, we don't want texture. This is not an image that needs texture. It's an image that needs dimension. So the scene becomes loud. It almost screams at the viewer. It's visually intense. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. This is horrible. It reminds me of my old school HDR days. Don't judge me, okay? I get it. We all had our time. So what I'm going to do here is actually go in the opposite direction with this. I'm going to move the clarity to the left. And you're going to see that we kind of get this hazing kind of glow to those clouds, which when I was on location here in Oregon, it really felt that way to me. When the clouds are so bright and you're trying to focus on the clouds in the background and the foreground and everything just looks so beautiful in this giant, vast open scene. That's essentially what I was trying to discuss in this image in the Columbia River Gorge. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Clarity and Dehaze, press B for my brush tool here, and I'm going to brush away anywhere that would be affecting the foreground area. That way, we are maintaining that depth. And instead of using that clarity and dehaze to get more texture out of our clouds, we're using it to effectively get less. So I'm going to go ahead and take this slider here, and I might even increase the dehaze just a little bit. We're kind of getting a glowing edge around our clouds, and that's not necessarily what I want. I don't want it to glow that much. So what happens here is I increase that. That gives me a really good boost in those blues behind those beautiful clouds. But here's one of the problems that I've always found with dehaze in particular. When it first came out, I remember doing a video on this, analyzing and deconstructing what dehaze was actually doing to an image, because it felt like magic to all of us at the time. And one of the things that I noticed was as you increase dehaze, you get this increase in blue. And I don't like that. So what I like about this now being inside of Photoshop is we can actually change that to the luminosity blend mode so we don't get that excessive blue that comes along with it. Now here it looks like someone who did some really bad color work on a black and white image. I get it, but we have our dehaze set to 100, okay? So as we reduce this now, you're going to see that we don't get quite a prominent boost in the blues. We just get an increase in intensity in the blues. And I think that works really effectively for bringing out some of that drama in the image. Here's the before, here's the after. Now we could take this one step further and we could duplicate this clarity and dehaze by pressing Command or Control J. And then I'll invert that by pressing Command or Control I. And then in this case, I'll increase the clarity just a little bit in that foreground area. That way, our foreground area gets more of that contrast that we expect, and our background area gets less of that contrast that we expect. What I would venture to say is that if someone were to use this effectively, this clarity and dehaze now, one could get some really unique and beautiful looking ethereal backgrounds. Even just dropping this dehaze even a little bit more now that we've separated these with the clarity in the foreground for that stronger clarity and intensity in the foreground, and then a reduced clarity and intensity in the background, we're going to create a more airy spatial feel for the image. So in this case, clarity is being used to describe air, and it's less about the structure because it kind of feels more airy. And in this way, we're not trying to manufacture detail where detail doesn't belong. And that's what I usually see happening with clarity and dehaze, is the manufacturing of texture and detail that's just not there, that makes the image look effectively flat. Clarity works when it reinforces how we expect the materials on the image to behave. We expect clouds to feel light and airy. We don't expect them to feel crunchy and textural. Unless, of course, you've got a tornado coming through and you've got these crazy, bulbous, wild-looking clouds. And in that case, unless we're several miles away, I'm pretty sure we're not going to be photographing it. We're going to be running for safety, unless that's something you do for a living. And if you do, then you don't necessarily need Clarity and Dehaze to make those more textural, do you? Look, you are free to use Clarity and Dehaze however you see fit. But I would throw caution to the wind when you're trying to use it to exaggerate detail where detail does not need to be exaggerated, because it will not work well in your favor and the viewer's mind will be like, what am I looking at? So in order to relieve that stress from their brain and make them feel the light, airy delicateness of the scene that we have in front of us, a reduction in clarity is good for the background and an increase in clarity is good for the foreground. Maybe not in all cases, definitely worked well in this case. What I would suggest is experimenting on your own images and seeing how you can use clarity in this way. One thing that I have developed with this is an incredible way of using channel masks with Clarity and Dehaze that I'm going to show in a channels course that I'm creating. It's currently in production, but as I was working on it this week, I said, man, this is something I'm going to have to show everybody. So stay tuned and I'll be showing you that on my YouTube channel before the release of my channels course, which is still in production. If you like what you see here, please consider subscribing. I like to take difficult things in Photoshop and make them seemingly simple so you can use them in your workflow.